Hey, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Courtside with Christy and Gabe. I am Christy Winter Scott, joined as always by my guy, Gabe Ibrahim. Gabe, man, we are in the thick of it.
Yes.
The WNBA Finals are right here in our faces, and just wow, the game last night. I'm just gonna say just wow on that. And we'll take a deep dive into what happened.
Our intro there had about as good of timing as the Chicago Sky's offense did down the stretch. That's about where we are, and that's about where Chicago was. So we get to talk about that. Lovely to have everyone in the stream. If you're joining us on YouTube or if you're listening to this later, I'd love to have you as well. Just make sure you like and subscribe and follow and give us comments. Tell us what we're doing good. Tell us what we're doing bad. We moved over to StreamYard, so obviously everything's live streaming now. You know, remember how often we used to like mess up the intro?
Yeah.
Now I just don't do that.
Well, I got an alert and it covered you up, so I couldn't see the cue. I got a text or whatever.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, well, and it covered you up, so I couldn't quite see. So I was like, hey, everybody. So yeah.
Oh no, but it is really nice to be here live with everyone. Tweeting stuff out. I also want to point out that James, hey, he said new thumbnail indeed. Correct, because my thumbnail for this video as of last night before the game was with Chicago and Candace Parker on the right-hand side against Las Vegas. And now I had to change my backup one, which was for Connecticut.
Yeah.
Because the Sun pulled it off in dramatic fashion.
They did.
An 18-0 run to finish the game. Hold on, I want to get the exact stat that I found from Alexa Philippou. It's from ESPN Stats and Info. The 18-0 run is the longest scoring run to close out a WNBA playoff game in league history.
History. Wow. Lord have mercy. You know what? I mean, it's the 5 points generated by Chicago for me. And credit Connecticut in that way, but also in listening to the post-game presser and hearing Courtney Vandersloot say, we were playing not to lose. And man, oh man, listen.
That's it.
Oh, you can't. I don't care if you're playing rec ball. I don't care what age, gender, level. When you have that mentality, or you can feel that energy from your teammates, whatever, that's hard to recover from, especially at home. Like you're supposed to win that game. You were 4-0 against Connecticut during the regular season. You were, I don't know, there were so many things that were heavy if you let it be. And to hear Vandersloot say that they kind of let it be, and they had 3 timeouts. And sometimes when you take a timeout, it's not strategic. Sometimes it's momentum.
No.
And you just, sit down, get something to drink and lock in, man. Lock in. We have 5 points. Like they had 5 points in the fourth quarter at the 7-minute mark. Was it? Well, they didn't score the last 4 minutes. I think.
They did score the last 4:46 of this game.
Come on, man. Come on. Like,
in addition to only having 5 points in the fourth quarter.
Hey, and you get the TV timeout, but listen, you have 3 full timeout, or you have 3 timeouts left. And this is, I'm not saying, I'm not bashing James Wade. Love him. Good guy, everything. You got to take a timeout. Like, take a timeout. Take one. And just for momentum's sake, because an 18-0 run, season on the line. I don't care. You don't have to change the defense. You don't have to say, okay, we're going to run this play. Sit them down and maybe don't say anything and look them in the eye. Like, is this how we go? Is this how we're going to go out? Like, what, we're getting punched and punched and punched and we're not punching back? What are we going to do? And I think a strategy aside, that was mentality down the stretch for the Sky. Unfortunately, I mean, you saw the dismay. I mean, all the fans. I mean, it was so quiet in that building. Yeah. And after winning a championship as a 6 seed last year, I was thinking they could draw from that. Being down in that moment. But wow, I mean, only 5 points in the fourth quarter. and credit Connecticut. I mean, obviously no disrespect to them by saying what I'm saying.
No.
I just think that it was, that third quarter, Chicago played great. They had a 10-point lead going into the fourth at home in a closeout game 5. And I don't know. I just disintegrated in front of our eyes.
It kind of, this is going to be a weird analogy. It kind of felt like like a turtle race, because both these offenses.
Careful with turtle stuff.
Turtles are slow. It's fair to say. Outside of the water, very fast in the water.
Okay.
Turtles are slow. So it's a land turtle race because these offenses couldn't really do much the entire time, right?
Right.
Neither of these teams could score. But I think it was just a matter of who got the run at the end. Yeah. And we saw who got the run at the end. It happened to be Connecticut. And you know what else? This reminded me of it, and I forget. I think Miles Ehrlich said this to me, that this is just like that game 1 against New York. There was that big moment. Yeah. In the New York game, it was Marine's pass, and then in this Connecticut game, it was the little scuffle with Clea Copper and DeWanna Bonner. We could talk about that.
Yeah, man.
Then it's just this tidal wave from the other team of putting Chicago down. And it was one of those things that we have talked about throughout the year with Chicago. They're an excellent team, great players. Yeah. They have Candace freaking Parker, right? But all of their games were within one possession.
Yes.
Pretty much every game they played was within one possession. And that it makes the margin of error really thin. And if you go on a bad stretch and then you let go of the rope, like I think you're saying Chicago did, this is what happens. But I did find a little analogy, the connection between that game 1 in New York and this one in Connecticut, to be very apt.
I think you're right. I mean, when you have the momentum, you got to hold that rope, like you said, and you could just feel it. You could feel it going away from Chicago. You could feel it going away. And then the frustration starts to set in with the team. And then now, you're pressing. And when I say pressing, it's not like a 1-2 press. It's like mentally you're pressing, like, oh my gosh, we have to get this play done. You're going to force some things like that pass off the backboard, the one down. I've never seen that happen for Chicago. And I'm like, that was a 3-point game at that juncture with a minute. Something they needed to score. I don't care if it's a 2 or a 3. You got to get a bucket right there.
It was early in the shot clock, and
early.
I don't know what happened.
It was a big play, and it's just that awareness and focus of the moment, right? Not necessarily of whatever play you're running, although you need that. It was the lack of the focus mentally to just bear down, lock in, get tunnel vision. I don't care where the game's being played, but you're at home. I get it, but you can't let that resonate with you and take you to a place of stress. Like, oh my gosh, if we lose, we're going to be on our home court. We're going to lose. Like first of all, I'm sure that wasn't said out loud because that would be ignorant, right? No. Nobody's saying that out loud. Coaches, players, no one's saying that out loud. You're going to have this team win on your home court. No one's saying that. Okay. I hope, because that's not.
No, that's not what went down for sure.
No, because it's like, don't think about a pink elephant in the room. What are y'all thinking about? Pink elephant, right? Come on. Your focus needs to be on winning. Focus on the winning. Like, hey, on this play, I'm setting this screen. I'm going to set it hard so we can get something to the rim. Because they were doing so well getting to the basket. And I think that's what Connecticut did well down the stretch. They got the ball in the paint. They started attacking. And when they went on that 18-0 run, what was it, 24-5, to close
in the last
out.
Quarter, yeah.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, they really did a good job with the big lineup to get the ball in there. And I thought that was their advantage in the game. And, Chicago just missed makeable shots. They had to get some of those down, man. I mean, for most of the game, what was it? Connecticut was shooting pretty well, but it was because they went inside at the end. And that bolstered their overall field goal percentage for the game. But it was their efficiency down the stretch that did Chicago in.
Yeah, and so I wanted to get your thoughts on this comment from 1 in a million. So they say Chicago lost the game more than the Sun won the game.
Oh, here we go.
So I just wanted to know it. Like, I disagree with that personally. I can explain my Connecticut theory. I do think we need to talk a little bit more about Connecticut, as Kurt Miller asked us to in the post game press conference. He said it in a little snarky way that, you know, his team has eliminated Candace Parker in 3 of the last 4 postseasons, which is true. But she did eliminate them last year and then win the title. So tomato. But regardless, I think Connecticut did a lot to win this game.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get your thoughts since you were just talking about Chicago.
Yeah, you know what? It's not disrespect to Connecticut by any stretch of the imagination. Okay. I was merely going on the advantage that they had coming into the series, which was 4 games to 0 on the winning side for the Sky. And when you have that, okay, you know, sometimes I know it's 0-0 postseason. You go straight in and, you know, you make the adjustments and advance. And that's what Candace Parker said coming into this game 5. It's not about survive and advance. It's about adjust and advance. And I think Connecticut made the adjustments. They went to their big lineup. They put the ball inside down the stretch and they got the job done. So, I mean, it's frustrating. And I know Connecticut has always said, we're disrespected. They've said it for a couple seasons now, right?
I got this shirt 3 years ago.
Oh, you do have that on.
I got this shirt 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's still true.
But it's not, you have to win, right? Then you get your respect. So now, I don't know if they could market those shirts anymore because now you've advanced to the finals again. So just win. And the respect comes along with winning. And you can't say, well, I'm disrespected, but then you're not winning. But
they won.
Winning. But that's what I'm saying. Now you won. So it's like, so there you go. So you can't keep saying that it's disrespect because you don't, as a team, you shouldn't be worried about what other people are saying anyway, right?
Sure.
You shouldn't. You really shouldn't. And it's about the locker room and it's about what you all believe. And if people are going to disrespect you, then so be it. Like, okay. And it shouldn't matter. It should be a consider the source situation when it comes to that. I always said that. And when you win and you get disrespected, that's another thing because that's a very real thing.
Okay.
And don't get me started on that because I'm going to take a sip of my espresso.
I know where we're going, but I do want to say on Connecticut, in fairness, we did not pick them. Certainly neither of us picked them to win this series. Certainly, I would say probably 90% of the people doing this did not pick them. In fact, there was a video from the USA basketball camp in which every single person, except for Banaj who said she wished both teams would lose, which I love, and she's correct.
Did say that.
She did. But every person in the Team USA camp picked Chicago to win.
They did.
Look, there's something to the disrespect thing. I don't think that's what pushed them to the championship. I love the narrative. It's great. Also, the shirt is good. Although the shirt's really high, it's good for this podcast. But when I'm wearing it, it's just like a big.
Mine too, but I'm not.
Yeah.
It's up there, the top.
Sure. Yeah. I think it looks good though. But I just think, what really pushed them, and you said adjust in advance, and that's what Candace and Chicago did, and that's how they've approached the game in this series, and you could see it. They did a lot of adjustments. They did try a lot of different things. They did, some of those things worked, some of those things didn't. Some of them produced open shots that they missed.
Right.
Well, I was listening to the press conference last night for Kurt Miller and DeWanna Bonner, and for Connecticut. And it was interesting because Kurt, his whole thing is preparation is power. We will drill the tape. Since we can't practice, we need to hit the tape as hard as we can.
Yeah.
So that's Kurt's mentality. But after game 3, DeWanna went to Kurt and said, "We're not going to watch film today." Right? They were all together, and she said, "We're going to not do this today. It's going to be a team only meeting." And apparently in that time, they really figured things out. Yeah. And I don't think it was more about like, oh, we need to put the ball here, you need to do this on her. I think it was more like, we just need to play basketball together. You have to believe, right? And that's the hardest thing to do because anybody can draw up a play.
Yeah.
it takes a team to win and make those plays. And I think what they did, and this is something Kurt said, was in the last few days, DeWanna Bonner has done wonders in the locker room in terms of getting the team, focused and ready to play on offense enough. They didn't score well in this game. They did not.
No.
But they did enough against Chicago to win this game. And I think a lot of it has to do with, like you're saying, we did not like Chicago's mentality. I think you gotta love Connecticut's mentality. I think they went out there and they just hooped and they trusted each other, and that's how you win games. And we'll talk about that with the Aces too, because the Aces said the same thing.
Exactly. And I think when you're talking about DeWanna Bonner, she's the only player on that team with the championship ring, right? Okay. She's the only player on the team with the ring. Okay. So when you look at Las Vegas, we're going to get to the Aces, but Chelsea Gray is the only player with a ring. Mm-hmm. And there's a different level from those two in particular in these games.
Yes.
Period. Because they've been there, done that, have the experience there, and it made a difference for their respective squads. And so when you have a player like DeWanna Bonner, who I thought initiated that contact with Ka, and it looked like Ka was saying, relax. Ka was like, relax. And Bonner was like, and not today. Like, she was in it. Like, it became a thing. But that from that point, it was a 12-0 run, right? Like,
that was to the end of the game. That was the start of the 18-0 run. They didn't score after that.
No, but I don't understand. Like, I don't know.
But with Bonner,
I don't think I've been in a nose-to-nose square up, so I don't know what that does. But I've seen physicality, of course, but I've seen it work well for both teams, not one or the other. It just was one-sided after that.
Well, I just think there was, and DeWanna brought this up in the postgame, that after that moment, they had another chance to get together and talk. And refine that, that chemistry that they had in game 4, and sit there and say, we can do this. They looked up, and this is what DeWanna said, like, we looked up and we have a lot of time. We have a lot of time in this game. We can win it. And I think that was a spark into doing what they did in game 4, which was create chaos, create turnovers, and make sure your defense is everywhere. And I think, one of the stats that I just saw that I hadn't seen before. So 23 team turnovers for Connecticut, 13 for Chicago. If you just told me that stat, I'm telling you Chicago won this game by 10, at least 10 points, right?
Yeah.
The points off turnovers.
There it is.
Tied at 17. Both teams had the same number of points off turnovers. Both teams had the same amount of fast break points. That's selling out to get back on defense, I think, for Connecticut, and being really efficient in transition, where they got some of those buckets at the end. So I just think Connecticut really, their defense hung around. Their defense kept them in this game, kept them, surviving the punches and surviving the body blows. I thought this game was over, to be honest. I wrote it in my notes. I have it here. So it's about that time, folks. It means it's over. Yeah. And they just kept themselves in it until their offense could get going. And that happened after they had that little time together after the scuffle.
Right. I mean, when you have the same amount of points off turnovers, right, that means you had a ton of live ball turnovers if you are Chicago. And I just think the 10 turnovers after that, you said it was 13 to 23. So you have 10 empty possessions as well, where you're turning it over, like throwing it off that backboard one. That
lives in my nightmares.
I could not rest without thinking of that last night before going to sleep. That one was like so bizarre. And that's not the reason why they lost, but it was possessions like that when you don't even get an opportunity to test the rim and get a shot up. Like, you have 10 empty possessions in a game like that. And, you go back to game 4 when Chicago had a slow start out of the gates and then got themselves back together. But it's like, you can't, like, we're in desperation mode right now. And I think Kalia Copper, I mean, she said that too. She said in one of the interviews on the side, she said, hey, I just want to win. Yeah. And she had a great game. When she was getting to the rim, that was that was not something that Connecticut was guarding well.
No, and 22 points for her.
Yeah, but she, like, I don't think any of, obviously, not a lot of those came down the stretch. And there had to have been more of an attack mode mentality from Chicago, from Copper. I mean, and this is, I love Ka, known her since Rutgers days. I get it. She just had to go to the basket. I think there was that corner three that she can make, makeable shot. And, you know, it can't be the home run every play, right? You've had success getting to the basket, attack them, right? You've got to get to the basket. And I think, you know, she found success with that prior to the fourth quarter. And it just kind of went away. So it's okay. Yes, Connecticut did a good job defensively, but they, you know, were they though? Because they weren't being attacked. Does that make sense? Like, we don't know. We can't gauge that because you're taking jumpers. Mieseman took a jumper, missed it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're taking jump shots instead of getting to the rim. At least if you miss that that shot, I think Parker got in there and got herself to the line. She got in there at least 2 times, got herself to the free throw line. But it's like, at least get to the rim and get some contact drawn and try to manufacture some offense from the line there. You can't settle for jumpers at that point of the game when the other team's on a big run and they're not going down. Yeah. It'd be another thing if you were making those, but they weren't going in, man. So you gotta get to the basket. And then timeout. Go to the basket.
Yeah, no. I also think it's tough to go get to the basket against Connecticut. And I also have a theory about Chicago's offense too. Is like, the Chicago offense is beautiful, right? Very beautiful, very based on timing and movement and teamwork. It's a motion-based offense. There's a lot more motion in there than there is for, say, a team like Vegas, which we want to talk about later. Yeah. But when you have that motion and you know, it's like a well-oiled machine. Yes. Whereas Connecticut's offense, I wouldn't even say it's a machine. It's like just like a loose collection of things you have that sometimes works out. So when you have something like that and Connecticut's able to throw in, you know, gunk into the machine. So we throw in, you know, John Quell on Candace. We throw in, you know, someone waiting at the rim. We throw in our nail help. We throw in these great recoveries that we have on defense. We throw in all those little deflections. I wish in the WNBA we kept track of deflections, because I think there was a lot more deflections than there were steals for Connecticut. Yeah. One of those messes up the entire possession. You have to get back into what you were trying to do before. So that's my theory, is that Chicago's offense, while as beautiful as it was susceptible to a team like Connecticut, a very disruptive team. And Mike Prada on Twitter, he actually brought up the an NBA analogy to the 2012 series between San Antonio and Oklahoma City. Yeah, I thought that was really apt. I mean, not the same offensive talent for Connecticut, but just the way that series happened, in which, like, San Antonio has this beautiful offense, but you can mess it up. You just have to mess up the timing a little bit at each step, and then they're not going to score as well. And I think that's what Connecticut did. So that's my theory on Chicago's offense. But I'm with you. You know, we can talk about adjustments and all that. It's really about the mentality, in my opinion. And that's not to take away from what Chicago has done in the past 2 years. No, some nights you just don't have it. That's the unfortunate part about the sport, is sometimes you just don't have it.
But game 5, you have to have it. Like,
but it doesn't work out that way.
Game 5, it's not mid-July, you know, Saturday evening or the Sunday matinee game. It's game 5. Like, but look, going to the finals or not, man. Like,
if this game was 35 minutes long, how much complimentary stuff are we saying about Chicago, right? We're talking, hey, the offense wasn't that good, but you guys got it done. They stuck together as a championship team, right? So it's like they had it for a little bit. I think the defensive effort for Chicago was fantastic. Yeah. For the most part.
It was.
The offense just isn't there. It's such a fickle thing, offense.
I don't know. It just got convoluted down the stretch, and then, you know, the eyes got big, and instead of eyes bearing down and getting the furrowed brow, they went up. Yeah. And it's like, oh snap. You can't be oh snap right there. And then you look to your side and you see a teammate, and maybe you're not like oh snap, but you look and your teammate's like oh snap, and then you're like, yeah, oh snap. And then it trickles down and everybody's in panic mode in the wrong way. Like you have to be in desperation, competitive fight mode at that point. And if you see your teammate with the eyebrows up instead of down, snap them out of it and say, hey, we're not doing that. This is our turn. Like we just had a 10-point lead. We can't, like, I don't care what play it is that we're running. We just got to go hard. Mm-hmm. And that you could tell is what Connecticut was saying. And not that the eyebrow thing, but just in general, like what Bonner said, we have time. Yeah. We're right here. That's just 4 or 5 possessions. We can get that back. Let's get some consecutive stops and get down to get some buckets. And if we get bumped, we're not taking it. And then, then we get the nails popping out and everybody's in the, and no technicals during that. Were you surprised that there was nothing in that? And I know if Ka got that one more technical, she would have been suspended and all that. But I don't know. I don't know if that factors into. But I just think that there was a lot of shoving in that moment. And then James Wade was right underneath the rim. He was off the bench. Like there's nothing there.
So I actually like that there was nothing there because I think you give a technical to calm things down, and it's like this is the end of Game 5 of the WNBA Semifinals. You don't need to do that. Like the teams are going to get back to. They're not going to escalate this. I think at the end of this game when it's so close. If it had gotten out of hand, if Chicago had hit a few more shots and this was a Chicago blowout, then maybe you would have been regretting not calling a technical because it probably was starting a fight. But I think in this situation, it's actually the right call. However, I don't want to be a ref.
However, because I think I'll be on this however side.
I don't want to be a complaint about the refs guy.
I'm not. I was just wondering. I was surprised though.
Well, on that one, and just like throughout the game, there was some bewildering calls, and it was so physical.
Yeah, it was super physical.
And they just kind of, I mean, at some point, I think the refs kind of just let go and let them be physical, which is fine. It's great. It's Game 5. This is WNBA Semifinals. That's amazing. But I think Chicago has some complaints because they lost. I think if Connecticut lost, I'd be like, yeah, Connecticut has some complaints too. They missed a ton of calls over there too. But I thought the refs were missing a lot of calls.
I mean, the one on John Quell where she was tangled up, and then on the replay, you could really see it. I mean, real time, it was like, oh wow, she's like, she's pretzeled down in there, arm down and pulled in and into the body, and but then in slow motion, I was like, oh boy, that was a lot. I don't know. I'm not complaining. I was just thinking, any other game, I think something would have been called or a double technical, like a double tech, or I don't know. Something in that juncture. But like you said, they calmed themselves down. You saw Parker in there calming things down too. But Jonquel was, she had some hands, put some hands on somebody. It is what it is. But again, that fueled the charge for Connecticut down the stretch. I mean, it changed their entire approach to closing out that game with a win, and credit them for that. I mean, I just thought that they made the shots. I mean, Courtney Williams shot. I
was about to say, we got to talk a little bit about Courtney.
Courtney, man, she's cold. She's so tough, Gabe. And she just, I mean, that was the dagger. That was the dagger.
I was really, really proud of Courtney Williams in that game because I've been someone who is saying, I've been defending her because there's a lot of people on the internet who don't like the way she plays. She does take a lot of bad twos. I'm not going to argue with that. Her shot profile is not the best. She's not the most efficient player in the world. Yeah, but she's got that dog in her.
She has dog in her.
I knew that dagger when she shot it. I was like, that one's going in. I've seen her miss that shot a lot. I knew right then it was going in, and she was 6 for 9 in this game. And I think what she did so well in games 4 and 5 was picking the right spots. I think Courtney can get a little bit, excited, and she's just rushing into these, these jumpers, and it's like that's not your spot. You're at, you're coming off the wing essentially from 18 feet, and it's like that's not the shot. Get to the free throw line, and that's where she hit the dagger from, right from the elbow. But I was really happy that she was efficient, that she understood exactly what the team needed from her.
She did,
and that is something that I've been telling people Courtney can do this, Courtney can do this. And then she came through and she did it. And I was really, really happy for her. Her dad was there. We're really familiar with him here in DC, obviously.
Yeah.
But I thought it was just great for her to have that moment. I was really, really happy for her.
Yeah, and her game, I mean, for longtime WNBA fans, you'll like this comment because she reminds me a lot of Tweety Nolan.
Oh, yeah.
Back with Detroit, and just the way she gets her mid-range shots. Deanna Nolan was just like that, a mid-range killer. Like, she was so tough to guard in those spots, and she elevated. And it's almost the same way. Like, she releases her release point on her shot. It's like all the way up off the floor, and she's shooting at the top of her jump. Really a beautiful, mechanically executed jumper from the mid-range, and off of 2 feet when she's on balance, it's a killer. But Nolan was just like that, was really smooth with it, tough in that mid-range area. But for Courtney Williams, I think it was huge too, because in the absence of Jasmine Thomas, I mean, they really need someone on the floor like that, defensively too. I mean, she's one of the best rebounding guards in the league when you look at that. So it's not just her offensive prowess that stands out in this series or all season or in her career, but it's also her ability to get to the glass and her ability just to find those creases and to elevate from the perimeter and time it out and get to the rim. I mean, she had 6 boards and 5 assists. Come on. I mean, she's doing more things than just scoring, and kids need to see that too. It's not always about your buckets. How many stops can you get? How many extended offensive possessions can you create by attacking the offensive boards? Do that. How many plays can you create with those 5 assists? I mean, that's 10 or more points right there, just from her ability to stay active. So she had a fantastic game yesterday, but an overall great series.
No, I thought she played really well, and she came out in games 4 and 5. Certainly, I was very, very happy for her and Connecticut. They deserve this opportunity. So, congrats to the Connecticut Sun. I will stop disrespecting you, although we'll see at the end of this podcast when we make our WNBA Finals predictions. I do want to. We need to move on. God, we always talk so long.
I know, it's fun.
It is fun. I want to talk about one more thing here.
Okay.
On Chicago and Connecticut, we need to talk about Vegas because we need to talk about Chelsea Gray. But here's my question. Okay. Is this it for the Chicago Sky? I mean, certainly it is it for the Chicago Sky that we knew, right? The entire team is basically free agents. Every major piece is a free agent, but Kalia Copper. Rebecca Gardner is reserved, so she plays in the WNBA next year. She will likely play with Chicago.
Yeah.
But everyone else is a free agent. And I don't know if, Allie Quigley is hanging up. Certainly sounded like in her post-game press conference. And it was off night for her. It was a tough night for her to go out on for her career. But
I know
what a career for Allie Quigley. If that's what it is, we don't know that yet. Is this it for Candace Parker? Candace said, I can't evaluate how I feel for basketball next season right now.
Yeah.
Courtney Vandersloot has had problems with the prioritization rule and may not want to come back to the United States, especially if Allie is not playing in the WNBA. So we don't know the answers to those questions, but certainly this team is going to look different come next year.
Yeah.
What do you think about their future?
It's up in the air, clearly. Yeah. I mean, that's why, I'm glad that they won it last year, but again, it's what have you done for me lately? And that was last night. And that was just, like you said, not a good note to close the season out on when you have gas left in the tank. And I think they did with how they went into that fourth quarter with that 10-point lead. But will this team look the same? I don't think so. And I don't think, and this is just my opinion today, and this could change obviously with what happens. But I think Sloot and Quigley, I don't think they're coming back. That's just my opinion. Candace Parker, I mean, before the season started, right? I mean, obviously she's going to continue to get these questions, much like Sue Bird over the last 5 years and China Taurasi over the last several years. They've been asked this question repeatedly. I think that for Candace Parker, she's got to sit down with her family. I mean, she has a newborn son, is under a year old, and Lay is in 8th grade. I don't know. It's just there's a lot to factor in, and she really gave it all. I mean, what a season she had. I mean, breaking multiple records on a lot of different things, rebounds at all.
Games 1 and 2 of this series were two of the best basketball games I've ever seen someone play.
Oh,
even though she lost one of them, but
right. But phenomenal. And I just think it's it's not a, and that's, I mean, we as media people want to ask that question when the season's over, because you have access to these players, but there's no way 10 minutes after your season's over that you have had time to marinate, think things through, make a pro and con list. Like, you're not going to get the answer, and you're always going to get that answer. Like, I need to think about it. I have to process it. And that's fair. But I guess I don't know. Do you have to ask that question to them at that point? Do you have to ask it?
I don't.
As media to media, like, I'm asking, like, would you ask that?
I wouldn't, because I don't like you're saying. Like, I try to get questions that are going to get answers, because people have had time to think about it or something.
They're not going to answer that. They're not going to.
I understand the question, and like you said, it happens to everyone at this age. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really hope it's not. I don't. I'm not a fan of any team. So if Courtney Vandersloot wants to play on whatever team she wants to, that's great. I just want to see her in the WNBA.
I know.
And I don't know. I just think for this Chicago Sky team, for this group, it might be more or less the end of the line. And James Wade kind of talked about it. He said, this year I just hope we played Sky basketball. We made a lot of people happy with the way we played basketball. I just hope that's what we did. And it kind of sounded like, I don't know what's next. And I don't think he knows what's next. I don't think anyone knows what's next.
No.
But it is. This is a good time to just reflect on like how this Chicago Sky team played, because like I mentioned, it's beautiful. It's beautiful basketball. It's together. How they won the championship last year was some of the best point guard play I've ever seen from Courtney Vandersloot, along with Kalia Copper becoming a star, along with Candace getting her ring at home. Like, they had everything going last year, and this year they didn't. And that's just unfortunately how basketball works. And that's sad. But I think we should remember the Sky team as what they were, which is just a beautiful basketball team.
Yeah, agreed. And it's tough. I mean, especially down the stretch against a tough Connecticut team. I mean, and Connecticut, again, give them credit for going in there and having the moxie to not just survive the series, but dominate down the stretch and take that game from them at home. And it was remarkable to see that. And I know that Kurt Miller always talks about like the Ferris wheel, right? Yeah. And how sometimes you're at the top and like, oh, like down at the Harvard, right? There's like the Ferris wheel down there. It's beautiful. Oh my gosh, look at this view. But then you come back down to the bottom. And I think that's where Chicago is right now. Last year they were at the top of Ferris wheel. And then this year, it just didn't happen for them. Frustrating as it may be. I just think that they knew what it took to win, but couldn't execute it. And there's nothing worse than that as a competitor. Like, you knew. And Courtney Vandersloot said, we're playing not to lose. Like, you understood mentally what was happening and couldn't overcome it. And as a competitor, that is extremely frustrating.
It's just basketball, especially at this level where everyone is so good.
Yeah.
It's fickle. It's sporadic. What you can do one day is not what you can do the next day, even against the same situation, which it never is. Yeah. That's the thing about basketball. Every single time down the floor almost is a completely brand new set of circumstances. Yeah. And I just dropped something. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But I think for Chicago, they didn't have the circumstances this year. It didn't work out. Last year they did. Maybe we could talk about the 1-game playoff and how it benefited them. Maybe we could talk about whatever. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just they had it last year. They didn't have it this year. Basketball is a funny thing. I think this team's still great. I think they got a year older. They did look a little older, especially Allie Quigley, as I mentioned. But I think they had enough, and it just didn't work out. There were 5. Again, if this game was 35 minutes long, we are talking about the Chicago Sky in the finals.
Different deal. Yeah,
it's a different deal. The game's 40 minutes long, though.
Right. And I think Sloot said that too. I think she said, we have several players that are over 33 years old. Yeah. And not as an excuse or anything like that. It's just reality. Okay. And it almost sounded like she was saying what you said about, fatigue setting in. But sometimes it's not just your physical fatigue, like running from point A to
definitely
point B. It's here.
For sure.
It's right here.
You run out of gas. You run out of gas as a team.
I think
I saw it happen to the Miami. We could go through the list of teams in WNBA champions or NBA champions.
Yep.
At some point, they usually run out of gas. That's what makes Michael Jordan so amazing. He somehow never did. And that's why we're all trying to figure out how he did that. But every team runs out of gas. Yeah. And I think it just happened for Chicago. I hope it's just not the last time we see everyone back. I'm sure it'll be some different team, some different players, maybe some different core pieces, but I hope we see at least a good chunk of it back.
Yeah. And how about Connecticut? Like, without Jasmine Thomas this year, getting to the finals and Alyssa Thomas doing her things. And she was so physical. I mean, all her career. So it's not like just yesterday. But what a difference maker, she is on the court. And the experience of Jonquel Jones, last year's MVP. I mean, they're just solid. And, Brianna Jones, for that matter. Yeah. Tough to stop, 6th player of the year this year. I mean, they just have a good complementary lineup that they can throw at you and hurt you in a lot of different ways. And again, when they went to that big lineup, it really made a big difference for them.
Yeah, no, resilient Connecticut team. Okay, we got to keep moving. We talked for 41 minutes about just this one game. It deserved it. So we're gonna go long because that game was awesome. But the way that I think what we have to move on to is one of the best playoff performances we've ever seen from Chelsea Gray. Vegas gets to the finals in 4 games. They beat Seattle. They got to the overtime game in game 3 was incredible. Dice It Up talked about that one, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it. In game 4, an incredible effort from Gray to close it out. Asia Wilson was also incredible in the series. Amazing basketball in the series, one of the highest quality series I've ever seen, but Vegas wins it in 4 games.
Oh my gosh, let's go back to that overtime game because first of all, I'm surprised that my voice is still intact because I was hollering in here. Oh my God, that game was epic. They need to put that like on NBA TV, like they do all these.
Oh, it will.
They got to show that, man. They got to show that again. And game 4 too, for that matter. But I think for game 3, the dramatics of the last 2 minutes were insane. Like within milliseconds of dramatic moments here and there. Like, that's the game. No, it's not. That's the game. No, it's not. That's the game. It was, I don't know. That's, I think, the best basketball game this year, any level, whatever. But the fight of the Las Vegas Aces and just to have been around them, to see how they practice, how methodical, how intricate, how detailed their process has been in this postseason. I think it's really been masterful. And Becky Hammon, Coach of the Year for a reason. I think she has really captured the hearts and minds of her players. They respect her immensely, and it goes both ways. The trust factor, I don't know if you've seen that video where she was discussing what trust means and all of the ways. And I just thought that, that just encapsulates everything that Becky Hammon has meant for the squad. And when you have that trust, you could play free. And you were talking about in the Connecticut Chicago series, like, let's just go play basketball. Connecticut was saying to themselves, that's what you see. But for the Aces, they're just playing basketball, but they're in sync.
Yes.
They don't go deep into their bench. They have this really extraordinary rhythm with one another and understanding and trust. And they have a high level of respect for everyone's role. And it's so very apparent, especially in that game 3 and that overtime game where they had to slug it out and just grind and grit for it and got it done. And then the way Chelsea Gray in game 4 just went bananas. Again, surprised my voice is intact because I was screaming.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, her shots were so clutch. And at least 3 times, and it may have been more than that, the coverage going underneath the screen. I'm like, she's going to keep killing you. You're going to keep going underneath on her. She's going to let it go. And she was just a rock star when it came to execution and hitting big time shots when the team needed it. So it was beautiful to see that level of excellence from Las Vegas.
No, they were absolutely, and you're right. They do play a little. I mean, they have that chemistry, but they built that chemistry because they've played together all year. And I think one of the biggest things for Vegas that I underestimated was how in shape they are this year. Asia Wilson sat for 4 minutes in the series.
Wow.
And she was asked about it after, and she just said, I put myself through training for an 82 game NBA season. So I would be ready for this, to be able to do this after a long season playing. I think the entire Aces organization, obviously it helps that Jackie Young and Kelsey Plummer are young and always have been in great shape.
Yeah.
It helps that Kia Stokes has gotten in great shape as well. That's an organizational thing. But I think it goes back to Chelsea Gray. I loved what she said in that post game after game 4, where she was like, I got meaner, I got leaner, I got tighter. It was like a Muhammad Ali line. I was like, this is awesome. Yeah. And she absolutely had the right to say it. 50 points, 22 assists in the last 2 games. In games 3 and 4, she accounted for either scoring or assisting on 53.6% of Vegas's points. Wow. That includes free throws.
Wow.
So that's like, this is all of their points.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's supremely amazing. And I just think, like what she said, I mean, last year she had to come in and make adjustments to Bill Laimbeer and how they played the game. And then this year, again, making adjustments to what Becky Hammon wants for this team and an extension of the coach on the floor in the point guard position. So, I mean, just phenomenal in terms of her decision-making, when to shoot it, when to pass it, when to initiate. But it's just her fire for me. I mean, her facial expressions, like if I'm playing with her or, if we're on the team with Chelsea Gray, you and I, Gabe, man, listen, it would be plus 10 points every time. And she just generates that kind of energy and fire for the team. I mean, it's her motor that has really proven to be the straw that stirs their drink, if you will, during the postseason this year, all season long, but in particular in these clutch moments, like without her on the floor, I don't think they did the same thing.
No, they do not win the series without Chelsea Gray.
Incredible. What do you say?
I'm looking at the comments now. I mean, Phoenix says Chelsea Gray is not a human being. Tiger was just on there saying the point guard is in a class of her own, and I agree with that. Dano said Chelsea Gray got like 4 dogs in her.
I like it. And then she got Plum Dog right there with her. I mean, got Plum Dog, who was killing at the beginning of game 4. I mean, at all the games, but oh my God, they just have a lot of spirit. And as we saw in the Connecticut series, like sometimes it's that mentality that carries you over, and the confidence and belief and trust, all of those things. That's why these are the 2 teams in the finals.
Yeah, no,
that's the big reason why.
And there's everyone contributed to Chelsea Gray's night. They had great spacing. This team did have great spacing, and like Chiquita points out in the comments, like in the exit interview, Gabby said she played the best defense of her life on Chelsea Gray. Didn't matter. Coach Quinn said there's no one on the planet Earth who could guard Chelsea Gray, and I wrote about her on my newsletter, just about everything she did in this game, and it really was, they threw something at her and she would immediately throw it right back in their face. I wrote, they could come up with 1,000 ways to try to stop her, and she would come up with 1,001 solutions. Because that's what she was doing. It's like if they went under, it was a hit. That what Seattle did was start selling out to the elbow, because that's where Chelsea hits her shots. They brought nail help, and specifically to the elbows, specifically to the left elbow. They didn't want her to get to that left elbow. And either she would go, and then there would be someone open. Like Kia Stokes had like 2 just wide open layups on that exact play. And then it's like sometimes she would just still hit the shot with 2 people in front of her. It didn't matter.
Cold.
The performance, and it's crazy too. It is crazy too that we are sitting here leading off with Chelsea Gray, and everyone agrees that this is the player to lead off with, right? Think about the players in this series, right? We have Brianna Stewart tied the WNBA record for points in a playoff game. Jewel Lloyd, playoff career high in game 4. Asia Wilson had back-to-back 30-point double-doubles.
Insane.
And had a big game 4. You look at all the stars on this list, and you would probably list out, and Sue Bird, obviously in her last last go round, and we could talk about that when we get to Seattle. But like, you look at the stars, right? You probably say like, well, you know, how far down is Chelsea Gray on this list in terms of star power?
I don't know if she's
not anymore.
Down. I don't know if it's like, I don't think it's a list. I think it's like columns. Like it goes.
Well, just in terms of like how people, I think people have viewed Chelsea as a third star, you know, and that's not unfair. She did play with Nneka Ogwumike and she did play with Candace Parker, right? And then when she got to Vegas, it was Liz and Asia. Yeah. And then this year, you would even say, I mean, we're going to talk about the MVP voting.
Yeah.
There are 2 of her teammates finished ahead of her in MVP voting. And then still for her to come to the end of the season, like she did in LA.
Yeah.
And have the biggest moments, because I think it just shows like what she's like. She is like that. She is like this at the end of the season. You may or may not believe in clutch. I do, and I think she just exhibits everything about that moment, being in that moment.
Absolutely, flat out fierce. That's what I like to say about Chelsea Gray. And the thing about it is, she doesn't care if she's the third wheel, the fourth wheel, or the fifth wheel. She just wants to flat out win, and she wants to do it in dramatic fashion. And we've seen it, and I love it. Like, that's the kind of player that you love to play with, because she's selfless, right? But she can also crush you. Yep. With the ability to close in clutch moments like that. And the fact that she had on the Asia Wilson for MVP shirt and pointing at Asia like, this is the MVP. She doesn't care. I mean, maybe deep down, I don't know. I don't think anyone on this team. That's not on the list for her. Like, she wants to win another ring.
Yeah.
And she's the only player on this Las Vegas Aces team with a championship ring, winning one in 2016 with LA. So she has the blueprint for that. Vegas has been close several times, but hasn't come up with it. So, I mean, I think it would just be, for them to win it this year, I think it would just be a great storybook ending to a great season for this Las Vegas Aces team. Because of that, you know, you want to have that selflessness. You want to have that consistency. And that's what it takes. Like, you can't just be consistent on a Monday. Like, you got to bring it every time out. Like, and that's every practice. Like I said, I saw them eyeballs on. Mm-hmm. And Chelsea Gray was just very communicative, a great leader on the court. And again, an extension of Becky Hammon and what Becky Hammon once executed.
They have great leaders all over. Really. This team is a team of leaders. It's a team that it has very little ego, like you were saying. You know, Asia Wilson found out that she was the MVP right after the game, then came into the post-game press conference and said, what my biggest thing when Chelsea got going was to get out of her way.
Boom.
And she said, she's the head of our snake. I've never seen someone do something like that. And this is coming from the MVP. And it's not just platitudes. Like, you could tell it's genuine and real. And I think that's what's powered them this year.
Absolutely.
And that's why Becky Hammon was our coach of the year, because she created this atmosphere where everyone felt safe and to not have an ego. Like, you need to feel safe to not have an ego, right?
Right.
And I think that's what they've found, is like, we can be ourselves and we can understand that we're just trying to win together. And I think they've understood that. They've embodied that. I think that's when they're in the finals.
Right. And I think, you know, it's that old adage, like, you hit somebody with an open hand, that's going to hurt. But boy, when you hit them with these knuckles, that's a different story. And I think their collective cohesion has been the real truth of their success. And they've just been phenomenal in that way. And it's just been a joy to watch them compete, but also a joy to listen to them after they've won and what it took. And I mean, we see it, but it's another thing, like you said, to hear them respect one another the way that they have. It's reciprocal. And for Becky Hammon also to give the flowers to her players, saying, hey, and I was just mesmerized by those play calls in that overtime game. I think I retweeted like 7 of them. I don't know. But just, I mean, it was like, it went from the whiteboard to the court, perfectly executed. Yeah. I mean, just excellent. And I mean, I get happy about little things like that. But
well, you know what made me really happy? I get really excited about this stuff too. But in the timeout, there wasn't like some sort of long drawn out explanation from Becky Hammon. It was, I'm going to draw it on the whiteboard. You pick You screen for Asia, you screen for Kelsey, you screen for Chelsea. And then if you don't like it, you go here. We have 2 options. Everything is condensed. She said that in like 15 seconds, and the whole team understood it, internalized it, and then did it on the court. That was awesome.
It was awesome. It was awesome. And it was, and she said it, she was so calm too. I mean, that poise carries over. She was just like, go here, you don't like it, you go there and go there. And it was very matter of fact. And that's how they played. Yeah. They played and executed in a matter of fact manner. And that's what got them the win too. I mean, they played with composure. They knew what they could do. They had done it before. It wasn't their first rodeo. And I think Chelsea Gray said that prior to the postseason beginning. She was like, we've been doing this. Like, now it's just playoff basketball now, but we've been executing this well all season long. And that's why they're in the finals too. So.
No, it's been lovely to watch. Like I said, we do have to keep it rolling here because we've gone on.
Okay.
And I want to preview the actual series that we said. That's the thumbnail of this video. It's the WNBA Finals preview. I hope no one's mad at us. But obviously, this was all great stuff.
Yeah.
No, I want to ask the same question about the Seattle Storm that I asked about the Chicago Sky.
Okay.
Is this it for the Seattle Storm? Obviously, to a certain extent, yeah, of course it is, because Sue Bird is retiring.
Yeah.
It was really sad scene, to be honest, after that game 4. I wish she didn't lose at home because it kind of just like, I was really happy for Vegas and pumped up about Chelsea Gray. And then you had to come down because it's like, wow, this is it. Yeah. This is actually it for Sue Bird. Actually it for Brianne January, who's also saying goodbye after an amazing career.
Yeah.
Where she was on the all defensive team in 2012. I was a sophomore in college, I think.
Same. No, I'm just joking. Sure.
But and she just made one last year. So Brianne January also leaving. Stewart, she's an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
So she can leave, and she flirted with New York. And I'm sure in the offseason we'll catch up with that situation. But she may also not play in the league because of the prioritization rule. She's made grumblings about that. I don't expect it to happen, but we'll have to see. And then Jewel Lloyd and Mercedes Russell are the only players on contract for next year.
Yeah.
So is this it?
Yes. I mean, I hate to say it. That prioritization rule is really going to be impactful across the league, but I think especially for teams like Seattle and Chicago. But I just think when you have a player like Sue Bird exiting the court for the last time, and you could almost see it like in layers becoming a realization for her as she was walking around the court. And then the Aces players came over and gave her a hug and everything. But it was, oh man, it was beautiful, but it was also sad, just because she has put in so much to this game. The game has loved her back 100 times over. But that was tough it was beautiful, but it was also very dramatic to see hands-on, like everything that she has done over her career has just been amazing. And then all the flashback videos from her rookie year and and times at UConn and, her little face, the pigtails. And I don't know, she's been playing since she was a baby. And it's like to come full scale with it. She's not going to, not be around the game. She said she's going to be right there. She's not going to be playing. But I think that is it for Seattle and their core group. And I mean, Stewart, I don't know what she's going to do, but the fact that she was flirting last year means that that's somewhere resonating, floating around. Like maybe there's still thoughts that.
Yeah. Congrats to Jonathan Cobb, the Liberty's GM, for this loss for the Seattle Storm. I think it's probably great news for the New York Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I think they're done. Do you?
I think so too. I think this has to. Well, certain, like I said, to a certain extent, the answer is yes, right? Because Sue Bird's not there anymore, right? And we haven't seen a Seattle Storm without Sue Bird for most of my life. Yeah, right. Like 21 years or 20 years.
Yeah,
something like that.
That's crazy.
I'm 29, so that's most of my life.
29. Oh, you're a baby. Oh.
Like I said on the last podcast, I'm not a baby. I'm a big boy.
Big boy.
But I think this is it for Seattle. I mean, if you're Brianna Stewart and you look at this roster, this lack of a roster, like you have to go to the organization and say, hey, how are we rebuilding around this? Like, I don't know. I mean, Tiger, as I'll put up the comment again, Tiger said they could get Courtney Vandersloot in place of Bird, and hey, that could work. But at the same time, you got to fill out the rest of this roster. And it's tough, and they've sold out to get these championships recently, and they don't have as much draft capital because they've been drafting near the bottom of the draft, right? So they don't have as many draft picks, they don't have as many young players. I think they could be good, but if I'm Brianna Stewart, I'm sitting there saying, well, why would I go there when I could go to either New York, a team that's on the up and up with a point guard that happens to be very good and young, with one of the players that she played with in Seattle.
Yeah.
Do I want to explore other options, or can I even play in this league next year? So I think because there's so many options, there's so many ways for Brianna Stewart to not be on this team next year. I'm going to say yes, this is it for Seattle.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, you're looking at a team in LA who has no one signed back. I mean, they have free agents. I mean, the free agency market is going to be so intriguing to keep an eye on this postseason after the finals obviously are over. But I just think that there are so many players who can shift and move, this year. And it is going to be like a big puzzle piece, for a Stewie. Like, where is she going to end up? Where is Sloot going to end up? I think there's going to be a lot of movement this season, and like no other year. I think this is like big names are going to be, shopped and moved and shipped and decided to move on their own. I think it's going to be really intriguing to see it. But I think for Seattle, I think it's going to be interesting for Noelle Quinn. I mean, it was hard to listen to that post game. Oh man, it was hard to listen to that post-game presser with her in there, and just how solemn she was. As she should have been. I mean, season's over, but at the same time, it was like, as a coach, you want it so badly for your players. Like, when you're coaching, it's not about you, it's about your players, and you know how hard they've worked. You know the sweat and the grind and the blood and the tears. You've seen it, and you want it so badly for them. So as a coach, it's frustrating not to get it for them, and that was all over her. In that post-game press conference. But I think it's going to be a start from scratch situation there.
Wow, that's crazy to say, because we haven't said that about the Seattle Storm in a long time.
Yeah, but I think it's really this time. I think it's really true.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll catch back up with the Storm and the Sky and all the eliminated teams when the finals are over. We'll put this. We're going to be talking about this series for a little bit. Connecticut at Las Vegas. Game 1 is on Sunday at 3 p.m. on ABC.
Nice.
Gonna be a fun time. And as you were talking about Seattle and free agency and how much things are going to shift, I find it really interesting that the two teams that are here, neither of them really added something this offseason. I think it's a lesson in continuity.
Yeah.
And maybe I was listening. I think Coach T brought this up in his exit interview. Like, you look at the teams that are there right now, they've had continuity. They've had years of runway to get together and to understand how to play together. And I think in the way both these teams won, exhibited that. These teams really knew where they were. They understood each other, and they didn't have to mesh anything. Obviously, Connecticut losing Jasmine Thomas was a big deal, but they've been together. And and you asked me before the podcast started, because I don't want to reveal too much, but I know you want Chicago, because everyone wanted Chicago versus Las Vegas.
I did.
Everyone did. You were not alone.
I did.
I'm really excited for the series for a couple reasons. I just think the series is what we've been waiting for. This obviously, we've been waiting for a Chicago Vegas series, but this is the one we picked at the beginning of last year.
Right.
I mean, at the beginning of last year's playoffs, was Connecticut against Las Vegas in the finals.
Right.
And they played an awesome series in the bubble as well.
They did.
These two teams match up really well together. And I think it's going to be a great clash of styles, right? Like, Vegas won on their offense against Seattle. Actually, I have a stat here that I haven't been able to use. Vegas put up a 110.5 offensive rating against the league's second best defense. Connecticut held the league's second best offense to 90.4 points per 100 against Chicago.
Boy. Yeah.
So it's going to be a great clash of styles. I think it's going to be a great matchup of teams that have great chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just, something that we've been working towards for years.
It has. And, going back to regular season play and Vegas holding a 2-1 advantage over Connecticut, I'm throwing that out the window as a stat because of them, because of Chicago having the 4-0 lead over Connecticut. So let's not even factor that in because here we are in the finals. But I think when you have, like you said, the contrasting styles of these two teams, I think that is going to be something to circle for sure, statistically speaking, but also matchup wise. And I already said that Vegas doesn't go deep into their bench. Connecticut.
She prepped.
Fine.
She was like me. I made the Chicago thumbnail and thought,
fine.
Hey, maybe I should make one for Connecticut just in case.
Fine. But Connecticut, they go a little deeper into their bench, and they bring out, Carrington and, some other players who come in and really make an impact, especially on the defensive side. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see the rotations. I'm sure, you get to this juncture, you're not going to change it if you're Becky Hammond. You're not going to go deep into the bench all of a sudden. Okay. But if foul trouble, presents itself, or, when you're forced to make a deeper dive into your bench, we'll see what that looks like. If that's necessary to do, she will do it for sure. But Dearica Hamby has not looked healthy when she has come into the game. Hopefully she'll get that back. I mean, only a couple days here before game 1, but I think, she didn't look like herself in terms of her pop and shift of direction didn't look quite 100%. So you don't want to be a liability for your team in that way, or to be singled out in an offense, defensively, right, to attack Dearica, right, because her lateral speed is not quite 100%, is getting there, but I'd love a healthy Dearica Hamby on the court for the Las Vegas Aces to add to their depth, of course. But Kia Stokes, like you said, has been doing a tremendous job in that role. But I think, no disrespect to Connecticut. Okay.
How many times have we said this on the podcast?
I have to say this because it's not like there's a disrespect for Connecticut there. I think I over-respected Chicago. And I hate that I'm saying that, but I did. And I mean, they had it right in their hand, Gabe, and let it go.
No, yeah.
I said it. I wasn't gonna, but I said it. So sorry.
They did. No. But Connecticut took it. They took it. You can leave it there too. And that goes back to all the things we talked about with their chemistry and all that. But in this series, I'm with you. You got to throw out the 2-1 series lead. That doesn't matter. No John Quell in that third game, and no Raquana in the first 2 games. Even though Raquana earlier in the season was not as big of a part of this team as she is now.
Yes.
And she's become a giant part of this team. And you're talking about the bench. I'm thinking like, hey, the bench. Yes, I think Connecticut has the advantage, but with Raquana playing the way she is, if Dearica Hamby can get 20% healthier, 30% healthy, get as healthy as you can. Maybe don't play her in game 1. Game 1 is not the closeout game. Maybe give her a rest until next week. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I think they certainly have enough players. They can play all 5 players incredible minutes, like we mentioned, because of how in shape they are.
Of course.
So I think where it's going to come down to is just which side of the ball dictates the game. Is it Vegas's offense or is it Connecticut's defense?
Yeah.
And like I mentioned before, so Chicago runs that motion-based stuff. I think Vegas has definitely more of a tendency to just isolate certain actions. Say, hey, Chelsea, get us a bucket. Hey, Asia, get us a bucket. They like to run their sets. They have great sets. But I think it's less susceptible to the disruption that Connecticut provides. And they've been really excellent at attacking help. And Connecticut's going to help in this game a ton. So I think Vegas, their offense has a slight advantage, but the Connecticut's defense just put on one of the best performances we've seen in that fourth quarter against Chicago. So what do you think about that? Which side dictates, Vegas's offense or Connecticut's defense?
I think it's going to be Vegas's offense because of the way they spread you out.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to force rotations. And sometimes, it's easier said than done when you force rotations in a tighter area, which Chicago kind of forced them to do, but they had tighter space, right? So it's easier to rotate. Against this Las Vegas Aces team, the way they spread you out, you got a longer way to go on your rotations. You better be hustling your butt, right? Mm-hmm. When that ball is moved, that second and third line of defense, you better be ready to be on a string. And that's what the challenge of defending a team like Las Vegas is. You've really got to move on the pass. You've really got to arrive on the catch and be disruptive on the ball. I mean, that's the key against a team like Las Vegas. You can't wait. You can't come and close out with a forehead. Like, you got to get a stick arm up. Mm-hmm. You've got to be active with your other hand, and taking away passing angles and making that disruptive for them to make those plays. But if there's a drive, right, that Chelsea Gray is going to force you into, she's going to drive to that nail. She's going to drive to that elbow area and force a collapse. If you're slow to contain that, if she gets by that primary defender, if you're slow to rotate to that, you're in trouble, right?
Yeah. Even if you're fast to rotate it, you're still in trouble.
You're in trouble because that first domino is going to dictate the rotation behind her. That primary defender, that first action is going to dictate the rotation. And I think that's going to be the challenge for Connecticut. Yeah. Can you move quickly enough with extended space on the offensive end that Las Vegas is going to bring you? Can you rotate quickly in that? And that's going to be a big challenge. And if they can do that, boy, this is going to be a 5-game series.
Yeah, I think they can. You look at Seattle; they were able to do it to a certain extent. Actually, I thought Seattle kind of found a little bit of a rhythm, like getting the ball to Kia Stokes in the short roll, and that was successful. They just didn't collapse fast enough at the rim to force her to make a decision. So I think there's an opportunity there, and I think Connecticut. I don't know. I mean, because Seattle's defense is absolutely incredible. Yeah. And I think this Connecticut defense has a lot of the things that Seattle defense did. They just don't have as good of guard defenders, which kind of worries me. Because all right, so I'm looking at the matchups from the second game, right? Yeah. All right, so here are the ones that are pretty okay. And we obviously we have to change this now because Hamby is probably not starting if I had to guess. But here are the matchups from the second game. So we had Kelsey Plum with Natisha Heidemann on her. Okay.
Matchup.
It's a good matchup.
I like
Luana Bonner on Jackie Young. Good matchup.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. I think they'll go up and down.
Yeah.
They had Dearica Hamby was facing off with Alyssa Thomas. So Alyssa Thomas on Dearica Hamby, and then John Cole Jones on Asia. Obviously, with Kia Stokes in there, I don't know what you want to do. I think here, I would say you want to keep John Quell on Asia, especially after what she did to Candace Parker.
Right.
Asia is a different assignment, but I think getting John Quell on the best post player is number one.
Have to.
I think Alyssa would do a great job on Kia Stokes because she's not going to get posted up. Well, that's fine. But she's also going to provide a lot more problems. She's going to create a lot more problems on the pick and roll if Vegas wants to bring her into the pick and roll. It makes it a lot easier to defend if it's Alyssa Thomas there.
Right.
So that's great. Here's the problem. They had Courtney Williams on Chelsea Gray. Not that anyone can guard Chelsea Gray at the moment. If she's going to shoot the shot she hit in the last series, the series is over. Don't worry about it.
Magical.
But if she's coming back down to earth, she's going to cook Courtney Williams regardless. And you're going to keep having her kill you. So I don't know what the solution is there because they just have one spot that is not a good matchup. And that's the worst spot to have that matchup. So maybe you put Heidemann on her, but then Heidemann's a little too small. I don't know. That's a tough one, how they approach Chelsea Gray.
Yeah, Gray's a big guard. I mean, she's, 6 foot. I mean, she is bringing that ball down with some power and effectiveness. And when you have that size at that position, not only are we talking about her ability to hit tough shots, but she can see over top of you and make those incredible no-look passes to her teammates, in the space that we were already talking about. But I think, you also have to flip it over on the other side and talk about how Vegas matches up with Connecticut. And Vegas will throw a variety of defenses at you. They have a ton of schemes. They go some triangle and two. They do some, box and one, diamond and one. They'll mix up some things for a couple of possessions just to throw you off balance. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that defensively from Las Vegas. Obviously, they've been doing it all year. This is not like a knee-jerk finals adjustment. They've been doing this all season long and in the postseason as well. So I think that'll be something to watch for, the creativity of the defensive choices from Las Vegas. But when you're talking about Connecticut, I mean, I think you're really missing a player like Jasmine Thomas, who would shore up that spot that you're talking about and really
that turns into a strength.
Exactly. And solidify it for them on the defensive end. So now, it's about heart and hustle at this point. Sometimes, you're missing that one spot.
Dig deep.
That's what they did last series against Chicago. So they're going to have to do that again, because I think they are missing that spot, because of the injury to Jasmine Thomas. But at the same time, I think it's going to be a pretty even matchup in this game, especially with the momentum that Connecticut's coming into this series with. Also something to prove, as always, and they want to win, and that'll dispel every situation that they hear about being disrespected.
No,
winning.
So I've proposed this adjustment twice for the Connecticut Sun, and neither time has Kurt Miller taken me up on it, which makes me think he doesn't listen to the podcast, which makes me very upset, Kurt.
I think he does.
Yeah, I think he might. But I think Kenny Brooks told us this, like, in season. I don't listen to you guys. I'm sorry. That's fair. So I think Kurt's a little busy. But I've been saying this, is that they need to run out their four best players: DeWanna Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, and Jonquel Jones, and Bree Jones together, with either Courtney Williams or Natisha Heidemann up top. Now, they have not run this lineup once the entire season. I looked at the lineup numbers. It hasn't happened. They ran I think they ran Thomas, Jones, and Jones together with Jasmine Thomas.
Yes.
Right at the beginning of the season, then Jasmine Thomas went down. But it just kind of signals to me, like, Kurt doesn't trust his point guards as much to initiate the offense. You need the two ball handlers at the top, because it's been tough to initiate offense for Connecticut. So I think that's off the table. I would think it's perfect, though, because in this matchup, you got some bigs that, you want Jonquel and Asia. We'll put Bree on Stokes, put AT on Jackie Young,
right?
And then we have DeWanna Bonner on Chelsea Gray. That's a great matchup either. It's not,
right?
Because Chelsea Gray is much faster on the perimeter, I believe. But I just think there's an opportunity there. It's probably not going to happen, though. I'm just going to continue bringing it up, because if the Sun lose, then I'll come on here and say, hey, that's why they lost, because Kurt didn't listen to me.
Hey, come on, Kurt.
But I'm with you. I think it is going to be even. I just think Connecticut has to lock down the defensive end like they did against Chicago. If this turns into a series where the teams are scoring, 90 plus points, Vegas is winning it.
Right.
Vegas. Yeah. If it's a series in the 70s, Connecticut has a chance.
Yeah, and that's what Kurt Miller has discussed in this postseason, to make the games messy. I mean, that's to quote him, like, hey, we want to mess it up. We want to muddy up, the style of play. And I think that's what they did against Chicago to close out the series. I think, it's not going to be smooth and pretty. We are going to deflect passes to ruin your offensive rhythm and take you out of it. And that's why they've advanced to the finals. So I think when you have that mentality to come in and be disruptive, have hands in the passing lane, up and active with your hands and your feet defensively, I think it makes a huge difference. So is it going to be enough against a team like Las Vegas, who is also riding some strong momentum into the finals?
Well, Coach Scott, Christy Winters, Christy Winters, is it going to be? What's your prediction here?
I'm going with the Las Vegas Aces in.
I had the same exact thing.
I'm going to go in 4.
Yeah.
In 4. I was going to say 5, but I think I'm going to go in 4. I think I'm going to go in 4 because I think the pace that they want to play with, the space that they create in the quarter court, I think makes a huge difference. But they're going to have to lock in defensively too. Like they've got to be on point. They've got to mix things up and muddy things up as well. They got to make it ugly on the defensive end for Connecticut because they set and use some good screens in their quarter court offense as well. And are very effective with that when they execute. Yeah, no,
I think I'm going with Vegas. I'm going with Vegas in 5. Honestly, just wishful thinking. I kind of want to see 5 games. I think it'd be cool if Vegas won at home. I think I'm trying to go to game 3. If anyone from the WNBA is listening and wants to hook me up with the information of how to get a credential after the deadline, let me know. Because I'm trying to go to game 3. But yeah, I'm going Vegas in 5. I think Vegas has too much talent. I think Vegas has too much offense. I think Vegas is playing too together. To lose to a team like Connecticut, I think Connecticut, may have been hoping to see like Seattle or someone, because that one of the reasons they won the series against Chicago, like we mentioned, it was all mentality. A lot of it was the mentality. Well, they were hungrier. They wanted it more, and I hate when people say that, but that does play a factor in your preparation and how you do things and how you approach the game and your focus, right? When you're saying we absolutely need this, our entire future as a team depends on us winning this and our legacy, right? Chicago's legacy is already set. So Connecticut had a bigger, impetus to win. I think Vegas has that feeling too, though. They felt like they've missed out a lot. They felt that they haven't been at where they needed to be in the last couple of years. And they want to win now. And I think that's what's going to kind of that canceling out puts it into the realm of talent, adjustments, and scheme. And I think in those in those 3 categories, I have Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you look at it like that, all things being said, I mean, you want to see a great series. And that game 5 back at Vegas would be like thrilling, to say the least. But I think they're purpose driven at this point. Both teams, but I think for Las Vegas, I just think they have more continuity when it comes to that level of mentality and the consistency of that. I think will show in the finals. And, can Dearica Hamby come in and make an impact? I'm kind of counting on that as well, factoring that into my prediction. But I think she's going to make a big difference if she can come back in and impact the team, especially on the defensive end, especially with the board work. Who knows what she can bring offensively? I don't think they need that necessarily, unless, she slips on that weak side on the right side and gets those easy buckets that Stokes has had a couple times on those rotations. So can she come in and provide that? I think that's going to be something to look for. Mm-hmm. But I think even without that, I think Las Vegas has enough.
Yeah, I think
and the way that they've been playing.
I think so too. If you have a finals prediction, drop it in the comments. Shouts to everyone in the comments, by the way. We really appreciate you guys. Tiger, Phoenix, Braden. Didn't say hi to Braden yet. Sorry, Braden was here early. Josh, Chiquita, she was here earlier. I know everyone can't hang out for an hour and a half, so we appreciate anytime you guys.
Good lunch hour. This is a perfect time.
But yeah, no, I think we're gonna see some really good basketball. I think we're gonna see some really good basketball. I'm excited about it. I don't know though. I don't feel confident in my Vegas in 5. I feel confident about the Vegas part. I don't feel confident about the 5 part.
You think it's gonna be a sweep?
I could see it being a sweep.
Wow! Heard it here first, folks.
Well, I mean, we've seen really good teams get swept before.
We have
2020. There's a sweep. Last year was only 4 games, right? No, last year was 5 games.
5.
Yeah, last year was 5 games.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I could see it. I could see it. I mean, I could see it going 5, but I just think I could also see it going 3, 4. All right, so I did want to talk about one more thing before we get out of here. We might get out of here under an hour and a half. Yay. I wanted to hear if you're willing to say your MVP ballot.
Oh, yeah. I'm here for that. So
who'd you vote for?
I voted for A'ja Wilson. And we talked about it last week about how it's the best player on the best team. And now that they're in the finals, there it is. I mean, and to me, I get it, man. You get 42 points if you're Breanna Stewart. I mean, she's amazing. And I've always said that. This is no slap or shade or disrespect or whatever. This is the best player on the best team. And she has other players around her that are great, but they make her the MVP. And that's why she's able to be around a Gray, a Plum, and a Jackie Young, and have all those roles around her and still be able to be dominating. in her role. And I think that's what makes her most valuable.
Yeah.
Does Las Vegas get to where they are without her? No.
Absolutely not.
Does Seattle get to where they are without Stewie? No, they don't.
No.
But Vegas is in the finals.
So here, well, I want to hear you the rest, because you only vote for one name, or you vote 5 places, right?
5 places.
Okay, I want to hear the whole thing.
Point wise.
I want to hear the whole thing. I agree with you. A'ja Wilson's the MVP of the season. I do not agree with the reasoning that she is the best player on the best team. That could be a different discussion for a different day, because we've gone on too long today.
Okay.
I'm totally in agreement, though. A'ja Wilson, absolutely the MVP. I think by any definition you want to put on this, I think she brought the most valuable. She brought the most value to a team that was winning. You know, I create my cutoff at like the 4, top 4 teams. Those are where the MVPs are coming from in this league. So I think she brought the most value to a team at that level. I think she was incredible on both ends of the ball. Maybe not the defensive player of the year, but certainly close, like 1 second in defensive player of the year.
Right.
One of the best offensive players we've seen. Unbelievable. So A'ja winning it the correct way. I thought it wasn't going to happen for a little bit, but yeah, A'ja winning, absolutely correct. I do want to hear the rest of your ballot, though, because the rest of the balloting was very interesting. Also, whoever voted for Chelsea Gray first, genius.
Yeah.
That person is feeling like $1 million right now after what she's done in these playoffs. But let me hear the rest of your ballot.
Well, first of all, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. I can guess. Yeah. I can guess which.
You can guess, and I can dispel or check off what.
Okay, so I think you had A'ja first, and then Stewie second.
I did.
Okay, I think you had Alyssa Thomas third.
I did not have her third.
Did you have Kelsey Plum third?
I had Plum.
Oh, you Plum third. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Plum third. So then Alyssa, considering how you said Alyssa, although hold on, because there's one vote for Natasha Cloud, 4th place. Was that not you?
What?
Someone voted 4th place, gave a 4th place vote to Natasha Cloud. Elena Deladon also got votes, so I'm guessing your 4th place finisher was Elena Deladon.
Okay.
Is it not?
I'm not sharing all that.
Oh, Christy, you said you would.
I know. I said, oh, shoot. I'm just giving you my top 3.
Fine. Top 3 it is. Fine. But I did just realize that the Natasha Cloud vote there's an Elena Deladon vote for 3rd, which apparently was not you. That was not you.
Does it have an IP address on that?
No, but I can figure this out. Don't test me, Christy. I am an investigative journalist when I want to be.
You're also a lawyer, so I have to be careful.
I mean, there's a 3rd place vote for Elena Deladon, and there's a 4th place vote for Natasha Cloud. And there's okay, those are the only 2 that I would say are fishy for Christy. I would imagine Alyssa Thomas is on here just from the way you responded. So I would say, if you voted for Plum 3rd, that does make it a little difficult to figure out. I'm gonna find out.
I just got all of a sudden uncomfortable with sharing that. I don't know why. But I did vote for A'ja Wilson for MVP.
Okay, that's good enough.
And Stuart as second. Yeah.
Christy holding out on us.
Top 2.
Did you vote Plum 3rd? Oh wait, she's lying to us.
You're a lawyer, so I can't lie. I don't know. I'm just going with my top 2, and I have to. You know what? Honestly, I have to go back in and look and see exactly the points and all of that. Sure. Can you see the sweat bead popping up?
She is falling apart under the cross-examination.
You can ask Lisa Byington. I don't do well with selections of people because it's a cornucopia. That's what I call it. It's like it's what you like, and all of the different interpretations on how to get there. It's like the Waze app or the Google Maps or whatever. You have all these different ways to get to your decision.
Your Honor, the witness is stalling. Permission to treat the witness as hostile.
Where's the gavel, man?
You better sign us out before I start actually cross-examining, because now I want to know.
Oh my God. I need a gavel. Okay. That's it for this edition. We don't have to go home, but we got to get up out of here. Thank you guys for joining us today on Courtside with Christy and Gabe right here on the Her Hoop Stats Podcast Network. We'll see you next time.